Chinatown on a hot August night in a town known for its sin. The Foo Dogs were guarding the Golden Gates to good fortune, and Mills Jacko, Private Eye Noir, was retired and broke. But tonight I would not be denied. It was the last Tuesday of the month. Labor Day was right around the corner, and my landlady had a long list of hard labor jobs for me to do if I didn't pay the back rent soon. So I hit Mr. Kim up for a dime loan, and he said the VIG had just gone up. 10 points a week meant only one thing. I had the final table tonight's PLO Pot Limit Omaha tournament, and I had to do it lickety split. Pronto, man, I will not be denied. So I hustled on over to the local casino. I wore my old comfortable brown loafers, light tan khaki style trousers, and I had on a brown shirt that I picked up in Casablanca during the war. Life was looking up since then. The buy-in to this tournament was $100. All the regulars were already in their seats, squeezing their cards out. The air was thick and the cocktail waitresses were slim. Donald Trump was pushing us into a recession, and I needed a full house quickly, lickety split. And the poker gods heard me, but I forgot to mention one thing. I needed a winning full house. So here's my first hand I played. Yes, that's correct. My very first hand I pick up. It's a pretty nice one too, actually. A lot of suited big ones there. And the flop came king, king, queen. I flopped trips, so I bet 500. My opponent had checked. My opponent was Mr. Beerman Beck. He's the guy that busted me 2 weeks ago. I went in for the nut flush draw 2 weeks ago, and Mr. Beck busted me. Same guy, so I was a little leery of him. So I bet 500, and he just smooth called me. I smelled rotten beer. The turn came a 7. He checked, and I had position on him, so I checked behind him with my 3 kings. He missed a bet. Now, this is where I got a little unlucky. The river came a 10. He bet 1,200, and I felt a cooler. That's what it was. It was a cooler. Sure enough, I just called the 1,200 with my kings full of tens, and he turned over king, queen for the nut full house. And I think I lost the minimum on this hand. So we're off to a great start, aren't we? I threw this hand away for obvious reasons, and for the next hour and 40 minutes, I never won a hand. This is kind of a beautiful hand, missed it completely. So I'll just show you a lot of pretty hands that I played, but I missed the flop. If it doesn't fit, you must quit. Now the beautiful thing about not hitting these hands is I got in cheap. I never raised ever, got in cheap, and I threw it away fast. That's kind of a pretty hand, double suited. A lot of these hands, but I mean, if you don't hit the flop, you don't hit the flop. But the brutal part is this went on for an hour and 40 minutes. So here I'm down to a little over 8,000 in chips. And we'll keep on showing you that this hand here wasn't that great because of the 8. But I like this hand. This hand's a lot of connectors there. And here I'm down to a little over 7,000. Missed this hand completely. Now I'm down to 6,700, and I started with 12,000. Here's another hand. It could hit, but it didn't. Again, hand after hand, throwing them away. Now I'm down to a little over 5,000. Well, after an hour and 40 minutes of throwing hands away, I was seriously thinking about moving to Pittsburgh when I picked up this hand. A guy raised pre-flop, I think about 1,000, and I reluctantly called because I was just hoping and praying by this time. Lucky for me, a king hit the flop. I had top set. I went all in with almost 5,000, but I did not get any callers, no action, but I won about 3,000. And now I was in a better mood. I'd finally won a pot. I was no longer a virgin, and maybe this could mean something good. And then I think it was the very next hand I pick up this one. I like it. Double suited. And Mr. Beerman Beck, he raised before the flop. He's the guy who busted me 2 weeks ago. Remember, I had a nut flush draw on him and didn't make it. And he only had a pair of kings that time. This hand is a little different. He flopped a set of ochos. So the flop came two clubs, and there was an 8 out there. So my opponent flopped a set of ochos. He potted it, and then I went ahead and went all in. Either I catch this club or I go home. And sure enough, on the turn came the 7 of clubs. And it looked like I didn't quite bust Mr. Beerman Beck, but he was crippled. He only had like $600 left, and he was gone a little bit later. So sometimes it comes down to whether your flush draws make it in PLO. So now I have a few chips to work with, and I can breathe. This next hand here I played and hit a wrap on the flop, but missed the turn in the river. A lot of passive betting going on. I think I won a small pot with this one. I might have stole the blinds possibly. And then I got tricky with this hand. I was might have been in the blind or in the blind, so I'm in there. And the flop comes 10, Jack, King with 2 spades. So I flopped Broadway and I got a redraw on the nut flush. I got tricky. I checked the flop. Everybody checked behind me. I checked the turn, but then I got a customer on a turn. A guy bet 1,500, and then I potted it. He thought about it for a long time, but he finally threw his hand away, and I took down like a $2,000 pot on this one. So we broke down a table, and now we're down to 2 tables, about 18 or 19 players, and I keep on telling myself, I will not be denied. I pick up this hand and raise it 7,000 pre-flop because the blinds are now about 1,000, 2,000, and I also took the blinds with this hand. So taking the blinds help at this point. I was only able to take 2 pots, just the blinds only, but that enabled me to keep my stack relatively stable. I had about 25,000 going into the final table. They were dropping like flies by the time we got about 18 players, they were just dropping, and I was just hanging in there with 25,000 till we got to the final table, and I would not be denied tonight. Now, again, at the final table, I really didn't pick up anything, and I was just throwing them away, and about 2 or 3 players were eliminated, and finally the blinds were up to 3,000, 6,000. The guy here with this hand here, he's got a pair of 7s with little wrap on a mediocre straight. Anyhow, he goes all in. He's got like 40,000, but I only have about 20,000, and I decided to go up against him. He was in late position, and I believed he was trying to steal the blinds. So I thought my hand was relatively good up against what he had. And sure enough, I like my hand here. I got ace, king of spades with a pair. And I do like this hand up against his hand. I mean, it could have been a lot worse. He made a big bet. He easily could have had aces or kings, I guess, but he didn't. I read him as a pretty mediocre hand, and I got my money in good. And the beautiful thing was I flopped a 3. Yeehaw! Got myself a set of 3s, and now he's basically drawing pretty slim. I mean, I'm almost counting my chips now. If I win this hand, I got like 50,000, and I'm going to possibly win this damn tournament. Unfortunately, the idiot hits a 2-outer on the turn, a 7, and his 7 gives him a bigger set. I mean, unbelievable. Unbelievable. And my PLO night was over after 4 hours of battle. So until next final table, this is Mills Jacko, Private Eye Noir, walking back to Chinatown.